Zero Build has been a part of Fortnite for almost 3 years now, and that's crazy to think about. It's honestly a little hard to imagine the game without it at this point. Zero Build has become the main way a lot of people play this game, even having player counts just a little under build mode, if you ignore OG. However, despite this, Zero Build is still seen as a baby mode made for babies, while build mode is the real game mode made for real gamers.
I'm doing what all the old, washed up people do. I'm trying Zero Build.
Getting that dub on build mode felt good for both of us.
Cause this is real Fortnite.
Zero Build has always been seen as the lesser game mode compared to build mode. Builds used to be all you could play in Fortnite, and it's what made the game stand out from the crowd. Back when every gaming company was dipping their fingers into the Battle Royale format, those games didn't really do anything to make themselves stand out, but by combining Save the World's building mechanics with the 100-player Battle Royale, Epic created a game that became more successful than every other game that tried. And that was 7 years ago. And now, build mode has evolved to be this convoluted nightmare of gameplay. Don't believe me? Watch this. What happened? Explain to me every action that happened in this clip and then tell me how a new player is supposed to learn how to do that. If you look back at how people played Fortnite back during Chapter 1, most players didn't even build that much. And in Chapter 2, people started getting a little too good at the game, and that skill gap has only gotten wider since then, to the point where a casual fan can't keep up. Build mode, in my mind, is similar in complexity to a fighting game. You need to know your character's moveset inside and out if you even want to stand a chance of winning a fight. Learning edits and peaks is fairly similar to learning characters and combos. This level of complex gameplay can be really fun to get into, but it also adds a barrier for entry for people who haven't put in that time. Part of the appeal of Zero Build is that you don't need 5 years of practice to do well in it. Fights are more about positioning and not so much how fast you can build. Zero Build brings down that skill gap, making the game easier and allowing more players to get into the game and start enjoying it without having to learn what scroll wheel reset means. Scroll wheel reset. God, that's hard to say. Now, the quote, Zero Build is easy argument does start to fall apart if you dig into it a little deeper. It doesn't matter if you're playing builds or Zero Builds, you're gonna find people tryharding like their lives depends on it. A lower skill gap does not mean no skill gap. Tryhards exist in every competitive game, and Zero Build is no exception to this, but at the same time, it's easier to understand how this guy is winning compared to this. Alright, pause. I want to make myself perfectly clear before we continue. Just because I have problems with build mode, it doesn't mean that I hate it. As confusing as build mode clips can look, it's still impressive to see people playing a game at this high level. I mean, there's a reason why Zero Build tournaments aren't a thing. As confusing as it is on the outside, crossing that skill gap is still an impressive feat. Like I said earlier, learning complex gameplay can be really enjoyable. That's what most fighting game communities are based off of. But it's also not the only way to enjoy the game. I don't want this video to be arguing over which game mode is better because that all just comes down to personal preference. I just wanted to go over why I enjoyed Zero Build as much as I do, which requires me to go over my problems with build mode. It's like, Melty Blood is fun and all, but Smash is just easier to understand. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm gonna stop with the fighting game analogies now. Like I said earlier, fights in Zero Build are more about positioning. Because you can't normally create cover, you have to use what you can find. Anything that breaks line of sight, even a little bit, can be used to hide behind. You start to look at the map differently, finding natural cover pretty much anywhere. Rocks and trees that build players only use for mats actually make great natural cover. Now, despite what you may think, there is more to Zero Build than just disabling your build key. There's a handful of unique things that are only in Zero Build. Overshields, for example, 50 extra recharging shields given out in Zero Build. This little bit of extra health allows players to make more mistakes and also take more risks. Any damage you take in build mode will cost you resources, because in builds, no health is free, but in Zero Build, this little bit of extra health goes a long way. It takes away some of the punishment from getting shot out of nowhere and gives the ambush player a chance to fight back. And having a more forgiving health system also lets the player take more risks because they can tank a hit or two. Unless you get headshot, that's still an OCO, so be sure to keep your head on a swivel. And don't lag. Bunkers, another key item for Zero Build. I didn't think much of these things at first, but after going through Ranked Reload with Zach, I learned that these things are vital. They are vital. You need them for survival. These things basically let you pretend that you're playing build mode for a second and let you box up. These things are so useful, in fact, that they've been in Zero Build's item rotation since they were added back in Chapter 4. It's honestly hard to imagine Zero Build without these things. Well, they did remove them during Chapter 2 Remix, but that one doesn't count because that season sucked. Bunkers have incredible utility, but they do come with the issue of taking up an inventory slot. Having to juggle all these items is annoying, but it also adds an extra layer of decision making. Do I carry bunkers or do I carry another weapon? Your options are limitless. If limitless means 2. It can also get very chaotic if a lot of people are throwing bunkers, but honestly that just adds to the fun of it. Lastly, I wanted to bring up mobility items. These items are shared between build mode and Zero Build, but they function slightly differently. Mobility items can help get you out of situations easier and also help you push an opponent, and yeah, you can do that in build mode too, but mobility is so much more important in Zero Build because you just have less defenses in general. Being able to get out of a bad spot is absolutely necessary because you're more likely to be in a bad spot. It's also easier to use these things to get into someone's face because, again, they have less defenses. Mobility items, bunkers, and overshields make Zero Build have more depth than some people realize. It's still nowhere near the depth that build mode has, but honestly that's why I like it as much as I do. It's enough complexity to keep things interesting without being too convoluted. I hope I've made it more clear that just because Zero Build is more casual friendly, it doesn't make it any less of a game mode. Sure, it doesn't have that high skill gap, but calling Zero Build a lesser game mode is missing out on the bigger picture. It's just another option for people to play that requires its own set of skills. I'm tired of people arguing over which one is the better game mode, because neither of these are the better game mode compared to the best game mode Fortnite has, and that title goes to Hatsune Miku Escape Room.